Hello everyone. So I wanted to make a quick video, mostly for myself in the future when I say, why did I stop making YouTube videos? I had so much time, or so much time. It just confuses me, like I had so many projects I was working on, video wise, and there was a lot of really cool stuff that I wanted to do. And I'm going to show a little bit of a footage of my room. Hello everyone. So I wanted to talk about, it's a perfect representation. We come again to the crossroads, which it's a moment in time where I realize I've got too many projects on my plate and I need to prioritize. Now, I love video. I love my YouTube channel simply because it's a creative outlet for me. I can sort of document my life, and I can share it with the people I care about. The problem with this is I don't have the capacity. I really need to focus on what's important, and at the moment there are higher priorities. I made a post on my channel, not a video post, but like one of those community posts, where I talked about this fortune I got in Hong Kong while I was there, and basically the fortune teller told me, I'm not super believing in this kind of stuff, as so I understand it's very generic, but she said, don't jump too high this year because you will fall and hurt yourself. And this can be applied to my way of living every single year. So I need to sort of cut back on the different projects because I am overwhelming myself. I'm beating myself up for not keeping up to date with my things. And yeah, so the YouTube channel is going to be on hold. I will most likely still upload videos every once in a while based on how I feel, but keep them unlisted, sort of just like a documentation for myself. For the future, I love to share, what's going on. So, although this really sucks and it feels like giving up in a way, I need to do this for my own sanity, and I think it will also help with the quality of any content I make in the future. So for example, my Annapurna Circuit Trek video, which had a release date of 2025, will be delayed indefinitely. I have a couple other projects I was working on, such as my travel overview video. This will also be put on hold indefinitely. I started editing it, so I might put like I don't know what you would call it, but the general outline of what it was supposed to look like, with the music and everything. So maybe that would be cool to see. Maybe I'll just keep it unlisted, sort of as documentation that even though I was swamped with so many other things that I was working on, I still managed to get some work done on that. Regardless, I love video editing, but I think it's time for me to put that on the shelf for a moment. As you could see in the video that I showed, my room, I moved in I moved in April 1st. It is now 25 days later, almost a month, and my room is still not finished. I don't think it's a personal problem. I mean, I have my bed, I have my laptop, and so I can do my work. But I would really like to get my desk set up, and this sort of image of half-finished projects, how I would represent or how I would describe my room, is kind of a very accurate portrayal of the state of my life. Not that that's a bad thing. I think it's fun to start new projects. It's fun to hold on, there's a bug. Yes, where was I? So I definitely think it's fun to try new things out, new projects, whatnot. Um, but at the moment, I'm just not in the life stage where I can do that. This might be a long one, actually. I don't mind rambling simply because this will probably be the last video for a while. Yeah, so I have uni, where I have been keeping up, but not to the extent that I want to. Now, I'm unsure whether or not this is a degree that I want to pursue. I'm very highly anticipating transferring to a teaching degree in the fall. And so, yeah, there's a little bit of a lack of motivation to maintain my courses. And sort of this question of, okay, I really want to change things. I want to, if I'm redoing college, I'm doing the finger quotes a million times, and I'm probably using them wrong in most of the cases, but if I'm redoing college, then I should learn or have learned from my past mistakes, and I should do better. So far, I would say that I've improved somewhat, but not to the extent that I want to. I've had a friend tell me or question me, well, if you plan on transferring in the fall, what's the point? Why not just do the bare minimum and focus on other things? Well, I have this never give up mentality, and so doing things half-assed, which I've done most of my life, I would say, feels very bad when I sort of give in to that. I was about to do the air quotes. So obviously I struggled with quite a few other things in my university experience last time. So I wouldn't put too much blame on myself for... I would actually say I did pretty well for what I was dealing with. But this time is different. At least that's what I tell myself. And so I find it quite frustrating that I don't have this innate urge to just study all the time and learn and do better. And for some reason, when my goal was to learn, because my degree is agriculture, so when my goal was to learn gardening and this kind of stuff, for some strange reason, I don't have this intense urge to learn about or study for these classes such as agriculture politics, agriculture management, agriculture economics. I mean, very important topics, I would say, because with agriculture comes these things. I just don't have this insane drive to learn. I mean, I already know R, which is like a programming language for statistics. I just don't have that huge amount of drive to do that again, in a way. And so I really need to pick my battles. I need to determine that, sure, while I might not be fully invested in agriculture politics, it is important for me to get back into this study environment where I'm listening, I'm writing notes, I'm learning, and I'm focusing on comprehending the topics. Everything's in German, so that's a plus. So I'm practicing my German. I'm more awkward when I'm speaking in German, simply because I'm constantly trying to think of all the different words that I can use, and then I'm usually translating from English to German when I'm thinking, and so it comes to the case that I am thinking of an English sentence and I can't fully translate it to German, so that I'm talking around the sentence, and it sounds very not native German speaker. level. And so, yeah, with topics such as agriculture, politics, things that I don't know very well. I mean, I know German in the context of hospitals. I know German in the context of programming. These are things that I broke bones in Germany. And so I went through the hospital system, and it became a little bit easier for me to understand the words and the context. And I sort of got accustomed to that. And the same thing with programming. I worked in German. So a lot of these, business programming terminology sort of ingrained itself into me. Now, it's going to come. I definitely think it'll come. But yeah, I'm just trying to sort of try a bunch of different things. My university, I study at Humboldt, Berlin, and they actually have a very progressive view on AI tools. And honestly, I think it's a very good thing because if you don't know, well, okay, the way I said that sounds like I'm about to mansplain some AI. But no, what I meant to say is sort of like, if you haven't heard about AI, no, if you, okay, I'm gonna stop. This is the second time. If you haven't heard of Notebook LM, language learning model. It's built by Google, and you can import notes. You can copy, paste sort of text. You can put PDFs. You can put all sorts of documents, audio as well. And it will build a up to 30-minute podcast for you based on this stuff. And so it's been incredibly helpful where I take the class and I write notes. I then sort of am comprehending it in German. Then after the class, I import the slides into Notebook LLM and I listen to the podcast in English, of course. They don't have German support yet. They do have this interesting thing where they can they take German, they translate it, and so there will be moments where the podcasters will say something like, yes, so in the class Agrarwissenschaft, where it like says a German word and then they keep going in English. So that's very interesting, and it actually helps quite a bit. And then the third thing that I'm working on integrating is something called, it used to be called Anki Droid, but I think it's an open source project. So right now I'm using the app Anki Pro, where you can, again, upload PDFs, upload pictures, slides, whatever, and then it will AI generate notes for you. Not notes, flashcards. Now, of course, an AI can do a lot for you, but it can't learn for you. And so that's something where I kind of had this realization that, okay, I'm 14 and this is deep, but AI is meant to make things easier, right? It's supposed to take the boring stuff out of the way and help us get to the nitty-gritty. And so with learning, it's incredible. There's consensus, which is you ask it a question and it brings up all these research papers on the topic, and it sort of compiles an answer with research-backed evidence. So, for example, if I say, is consuming zero sugar drinks worse than is consuming zero sugar energy drinks worse than drinking sugar energy drinks or iced lattes or whatever, then it can bring up this evidence of how, of course, evidence is always changing, so you got to give it a grain of salt. But it does state that the caloric intake of iced coffees and the high amount of sugar that is put in there normally because they want to make it taste good, sort of makes it way worse than a zero sugar energy drink or zero sugar drink in general. So it's very interesting. It can take away this sort of extra work. Now, relying on it is probably not the best idea. I think it's a very amazing tool, but that's what it should be seen as, a tool. I've sort of, when you go to the grocery store, you get overwhelmed with all the different things that they have, and you're reading the labels and you're trying to decide if the €2 yogurt with 14 grams of protein, is it worth the price for the protein intake, or is it better to get the €2 whatever with more protein? Doesn't matter. You can break it down and make this process easier, which allows you to prioritize your health, of course, while also not spending as much time sort of overwhelming your brain. Now, I am a big believer that you have a certain amount of willpower every day, and as the day goes on, it sort of decreases, and this is why I am a late night snacker, because I spend the whole day bending my willpower. Okay, when I'm at the grocery store, I only buy the healthy things. When I'm studying, I only study, and I force myself away from video games and whatnot. Then at night, when all of my willpower is used up, I say, flip it. No, this is my video. Fuck it. And I just eat a bunch of snacks. Yes. So, and if you are someone like me who gets heavily impacted by sugar and junk food, this is like a cycle. So I'm stressed, I stress eat, usually junk food, and then I get stressed more easily and I feel worse. For example, when my health is worse, my fitness is worse, so that I'm like out of shape, and I'm frustrated about my weight gain, things like this. And so this is just a small example of how AI can assist in removing this willpower depletion in the grocery store, where it can then be used later in the late night snacking, preventing it at least. Now, of course, I'm not saying that you should rely entirely on AI. I think it's important to be able to read the ingredient list on the back of a product and determine the health of it, but it's definitely good to use a tool to sort of break it down, make it faster. So I'm a big believer of learning how to do the skill and then having AI sort of take over the heavy lifting. Now, where were we? So, with education and studying, I'm a huge believer that writing notes, while an important part of the process, which is why I still do it, compiling the notes and making flashcards, which the purpose of flashcards is to use them and not create them. And so we've already written it once. We don't need to write it again. And of course, when you're making the flashcards with AI, you're still going through and proofing that it's taking the most important topics and the things that you are actually needing to memorize and understand. So yeah, I'm definitely a big proponent of reducing time spent and increasing time spent building and reducing time spent doing unimportant, time-intensive tasks, and increasing time spent doing what you like and time spent learning, which I think is honestly one of the greatest parts of being human, is that we're constantly learning and discovering new things. Of course, a lot of people would say born too late to discover anything, but in a way, I think it's rather than having to discover things in the world, which there are still many things to be discovered in the world. For example, I think in Nepal there was the world's smallest otter. It has been rediscovered after like 175 years or something, or over that. And so people are still discovering things out in the world. But I think now is the age of discovering within, so enhancing humans' capabilities, and making it so that we have less time spent doing pointless tasks. So this kind of brings me to the next point, which is how I believe AI is being misused. So this is sort of where I think there's a diverging path. And right now, we're going one way when I think the best way is the other way. And of course, just because you go one way doesn't mean you can turn around and go back, or you can split off into a new path that intersects with the other. I am a huge believer that humans survive on hope. And when hope is gone, then it's easier to not survive. And what I currently am believing is the misuse of AI is that we're using it in a way to replace humans instead of replace meaningless time spent for humans. So, as we all know, the shareholders, the board, or whatever the fucking people are called who make these decisions on profit instead of humanity, they want to spend less money. They want to make more money. And I mean, that's been their goal and has always been their goal, and they don't care what is going to happen to make it happen. And so something that I learned in Germany, I'm diverging on different paths, but stay with me. We're going to go back to the original one. Something I learned in Germany is that instead of constantly stepping on other people to make more money, to become more successful, you're learning that you are happier. Now, I'm not trying to force other people to be happy, but it is a more satisfying life, even if you're earning less money, but you are coexisting with your community, with your country, supporting each other. Even in the case of spending or earning less money. I know that I have met a lot of people since I've come to Germany in 2017 that as students, as entry-level workers, are so happy to benefit from the German social system. When you pay health insurance, you pay into a system that allows everyone to have affordable healthcare. Now, a lot of people say that healthcare in Germany is free, but that is, as I love to say it, in quotation marks, free. But then these same people, as they start to earn more money, they realize, damn, I'm earning more money, but I have to pay more money. What is this? This is ridiculous. Well, the people before you have also paid that money so that you could have the affordable healthcare. And so it's a bit concerning when the people who are making more money, who had been supported, are now saying, okay, well, I'm going to go on private healthcare because I don't want to pay for everyone else. Feels like a very capitalistic. I'm not a super economic terminology guy, so I don't know. But it feels like a very selfish and American way of thinking. But going back, AI, in the terms of working, companies can easily, instead of replacing employees, they can increase they can increase innovation by simply having the meaningless parts of the job replaced by AI and keep the human aspect to it, where now there are builders and creators who can spend their time doing what's valuable instead of wasting their time doing what's pointless. Now, I don't know if anyone has seen the movie Office Space, but it was sort of a. I'm not super sure if I enjoyed the ending, but it was sort of this description or depiction of the office job. Now, I, among many others, are very unhappy or unsatisfied by this cubicle type work environment, and I know that I'm incredibly privileged, or was in the past, to work in an environment where we had a very, very, very flexible office where they gave us drinks and it was very open and green and very nice. And we got our lunch breaks. And I mean, this should be a given, but there are definitely companies that aren't giving this. That's why I mention it. We had a work from home policy. I was able to travel while working. And it was seriously such an amazing thing, but it still had this classic corporate meaningless dredge, where you're doing things that are a waste of time, that seriously don't matter, just to sort of fill time, when instead, I mean, this was what a lot of people had seen with this shift to work from home. People were able to, instead of spending the 8 hours completing a task and in the middle sort of dragging their feet a little bit because they had to fill these 8 hours, they were able to complete the task and then enjoy their life after. And while there should be some sort of balance where this can increase sort of output and innovation with the help of AI, we definitely should be benefiting humanity by reducing the time we spend working. I think the statistic was something like people spend 90,000 hours of their life, which is like, what, a third of their life working? And I mean, a lot of people, when you say that this is time wasted, because when you finally retire, because what are you working for? You're working so you can retire and have a good life. And when you retire, you're old. You're not young anymore. And what is this life that you're enjoying when a third of it is gone? And when you say these kind of things, then there's people who will come from the woodworks and say, well, this is how it's supposed to be. This is what society is like. You either get with it or you get left behind. And there's a very, very big lack of people, especially among the people who have already gone through it, of wanting to change this for the younger generation. Now, I have definitely been called lazy, and I agree with it sometimes. But I also believe that I just want a different world, not just for myself, but for all the people around me. And is it so bad to work towards or idealize a world in which our lives are spent more efficiently? Now, this is getting a little bit off track, but this is kind of what I have felt. Among many other people, I mean, I had to uninstall TikTok after I installed it because I think within the first 2 weeks, my average hours spent on TikTok was 6, which is insane. And currently I'm addicted to YouTube and spend more time than I would like to admit watching content. Now, content creation is also a form of creativity and art, but content slop, I really think, is bad. It's just so mind sucking, you know? What I've noticed as I'm very, very deep into the YouTube system, lore, whatever you want to call it. What I've noticed is the way people are talking is getting simpler. People are lacking terminology to have more complex sentences, and this is not the fault of the individual. This is the fault of the society, right? Where instead of wanting to build humans up, it's about profit maximizing and hooking them for as long as possible and sharing the most addicting content as they can, much of which is rage bait, much of which is this like drool, this content slop, as a lot of people like to call it. And this is where it comes into education, where perhaps it's rage bait as well, but I have seen online that so many teachers are giving up because the students aren't learning. The students are struggling hardcore with many learning deficits, some of which are related to the phone, some of which are related by the society around them. And the fact is, and I don't want to sound I say this without bad intention. I simply am saying what I noticed. But in the time in which I was in Nepal, I saw that hypothetically, well, not hypothetically because it existed, but let's say the remote villages looked like this, where there was some here, some here, some here, some here, and in the middle, or whatever, one of the general villages had the school. Not all of them, because they were not big enough to support it. The help of teachers and organizers and volunteers, these schools were able to support every student or most students of the surrounding villages. Now, whether or not this is the case with all students or I'm cherry picking, it seemed to me that the students who are coming from different villages, walking for an hour, carrying their younger siblings, going through forests, sort of this classic thing of what the parents say, going uphill both ways to get to school. Because learning is a privilege. And this is what we're seriously forgetting, that learning is not something that just exists. In the past, it was that the royals or whatever were the most educated because of privilege. And right now, it really feels like me and all the other people hooked on this content slop are the peasants. We're being, now this is going into conspiracy theory, but we're being turned into this education or peasant educational representation by the royals, who are the rich people who are creating all these lovely content systems. I'm very grateful for all the teachers I've had in the past, because they've seriously guided me, even though I was incredibly unwilling most of the time, into becoming a more educated person. Because what a lot of people are using AI for is to replace their thinking. No longer is it, should I get this or that? It's, hey AI, which one should I get? Which one's more beneficial? Or, okay, I have to write an essay on these topics, and I don't really know what kind of structure I should use, or maybe I could learn how to structure it or how to research the topics properly, and AI can help me with that. It becomes, okay, AI, just fill out everything and I'll print it out. And at the bottom, it will say generated by ChatGPT, and I'll hand it in because I don't care and I don't look at all. I fall into this loophole as well, where it's become very easy for me to, instead of starting a project, I can just say, hey, ChatGPT, how would I start this project? And then it goes through all the steps, and I no longer feel like I need to do the project. Maybe that's good, maybe it's bad, I don't know. But it sort of is this self gratifying, like, oh, I've done it because I've asked ChatGPT, and ChatGPT has given me the way to do it. And so I can't believe that the kids these days are having it easy. You know, it's not their fault that they're misusing AI. It's simply with a lack of knowledge. Anyone would misuse any tool, you know. And it really frustrates me seeing the back and forth of just hate instead of trying to work together and to build a better system for everyone. It's just this incredible, well, I worked for it, so I deserve all the money kind of mentality. I mean, something that I read, well, let's be honest, something that I watched in a YouTube video was that somewhere in the 1900s, there was several 100,000 lumberjacks. And then, as tools came out to make it easier, so let's say chainsaws and whatnot, the lumberjacks then went down. How many people needed to be employed for that? And now with even greater tools, the lumberjack society, what am I saying? The amount of lumberjacks has gone even further down. And because you just need one or two lumberjacks to oversee the machines that are doing it. Okay, so let's translate this into the real world. What the fuck? So let's translate this into programming. So a lot of companies are firing many employees and keeping only the senior level ones to oversee AI doing the work. Okay, makes sense. But then what happens to all the people who now don't have a job? And it should seriously just be that the innovators pay for it, you know? It's not that difficult to realize that, yes, they're making so much money by getting rid of people, by reducing the manpower, by using these tools to replace as many people as they can. So why can't they, with their many millions and billions of dollars of profit? Sure, this is probably a very simplistic way to see it, but why can't they pay into a fund that allows people to have a what is it called? There's a word for it. It's like it's like when every person gets money just to have enough for rent, food, and whatnot. And then they can determine what they want to do to make more above that. It's something income. Man, see, this is frustrating because I think this is a very important thing, a very important topic. I'm gonna think about it for hours, and then after I upload this video, I'll remember it. But yeah, so is it idealistic? Yes. The hope that it will happen, I mean, one can always hope, but Germany it already has the building blocks in place. So instead of working with a country like the US, where it's all about stepping on the other people to make your way up the tower, we should just have a mass migration. Um, when the U.S. became the highest paying, um, best educating, biggest freedom country in the world, there was a huge brain drain, is what they call it, where all of the talented people kept going to the US to try to fulfill this dream, this American dream, you know? But this has changed. This has, the US is controlled by people who don't care about the people. And I'm not saying this in a way to cause hate or cause separation. It's as they say, we vote with our wallet. But as long as you live there, you're voting with your wallet, you know? And I understand not everyone can make the move, not everyone can jump ship, so to say. But I seriously think that more people should consider it. This is something that I've been working on, which is hopefully one of my other important projects, which is my startup. My paid sponsor. No, I'm just kidding. I plan to help German Americans. So as long as you have one German parent, you are eligible to go from the US to Germany, get your citizenship, and become a German. And because you're coming from the US to Germany, you get the dual citizenship. So you technically do not need to give up your freedom ticket or whatever you want to call it. Though, as time goes on, this US passport becomes or goes lower and lower in the world list of passport power. In Germany, the central hub of Europe, it's quite up there, you know, it remains quite powerful. And what I'm saying is not for a mass migration of people who want to bring American values to Germany and take advantage of a system built for the people and step on other people. I want this integration to exist. There are so many beautiful things about America that you can bring to Germany. Customer service, just people, loving people. Now, I know on the news you see a lot of hate, but every time I'm home in the US for Christmas, there's so many kind people. The small talk, the greetings, just you go into a grocery store and there's someone there who says, "Hey, how are you? I hope you're doing well." Just the little touch, and it makes everything so much nicer. And I can't say this is true for all of Germany, but my experience with customer service here has just been quite awful, to say the least. And what I've heard from a lot of foreigners is that they don't feel at home here. To come over, to bring the positive parts, to contribute to this system. This is just so powerful. This is something that we would make what already exists as the perfect building blocks of a system. Let's go and step back. Not perfect, a really good building block of a system. And then we could build it up and really create something great. We could support so many people simply by having more people, you know? Let's face it, it's not about what you do to make money. It's about, like, being part of something, you know? Being part of a community. Yeah, of course, having the fancy job with the big income, that's the American ideal. And that's why you have a lot of people working minimum wage defending the millionaires, because they say, well, one day I'll be making so much money, and so I don't want them to get rid of these tax breaks for the rich people. And I think I saw like the term bootlicker or whatever it is online, and I'm not trying to hate on them. They're just being misled. And yeah, so my hope is with the startup that I'm building for a very affordable rate, because I mean, that's so frustrating. I wish I could have enough money that I could just do this for free, but I don't, and so I will price it so that I can survive, and I don't need a dime extra, you know? I just need enough to pay my rent, to eat my food, and save a little bit for emergencies case, and I don't mind, like, doing it for much less, you know? Because it's not about me, you know? It's about my community, you know? It's about, yeah. I sound very idealistic, and I know that it's just so frustrating because many people hear what I have to say and they say, oh, you haven't lived enough. You don't know what's actually possible and whatnot. I think when I was in high school, in one of my psychology classes, the teacher, he said, everyone who believes that it can take one person to make a change, go to this side, and it can take, like one person cannot make a change, go to the other. And we're about to have like, and then everyone got up and clapped moment, but like I was the only one standing here, and the teacher asked me, he said, well, insinuating that I was wrong, which maybe I am, but he said, okay, how can one person make a change? And all it needs is the one person, at least that's what I said back then, to start. And then the people around him can also start, and they see him making a change. And yes, sure, as it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and more people involved, the change becomes bigger. But if there hadn't been this first person, would it have ever started? No. And so that's why I believe it takes even just one person to change something. I'm not the smartest, and so I'm really trying with the skills that I have to maximize this idea. I'm so certain that this already exists, and that I'm just because even if it didn't, there's the saying that if you have an idea, the same exact time you get the idea, 3 other people in the world also get the idea. I think this is a concept to make people who have the idea to build a startup to quicken the pace, but yeah, I just in general believe that it takes one person to start. Yeah, and so I'm gonna build what I believe is the starting point to bring more people into a system that cares. I know that Germany also has its flaws, but they pick you up when you're down. You know, I could tell you the story about how my sister's company in the US gave her 1 vacation day a year when she first started, and 1 sick day a year when she first started. And for some of you that might sound normal, but that is insane. The average starting vacation days is, I think, like I don't know, 14 or 15. I don't know the exact digits, but like I think when you start something full-time, you should have 24 days a year. And sick days, if you're sick, you're sick. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And for some of you, that sounds insane because they think, oh, well, I'm sure people take advantage of that system. Okay, there will always be people who take advantage of a system, but that doesn't mean that you need to shoot everyone in the fucking knee to make it so that these people, the small minority, who take advantage of the system, can't. Because the people who take advantage of systems will always exist, and it's just part of it, you know? And you just have to incentivize them to not. Anyways, that is all for now. Perhaps I will publish another video when my startup reaches a point where I can start taking in people and helping them make their change, make their transfer, the brain drain. But who knows? Because I know that I will put a pause on my creative projects here on this channel. I thank everyone for supporting and for tuning in. And who knows, maybe I don't have the strength to build this startup on my own. So if you would like to, leave a comment down below and we can perhaps work together. Yeah, I mean, it just takes one person to start, and it would be awesome if we can work together to make, I don't know, it sounds so cringe. Isn't it crazy how it sounds so cringe? But or how we think it sounds so cringe, but together we can make the world a better place. Okay. Oh my god. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.